Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Nara. Same or Nara. I thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. I mean, it's been okay. Like, let me start from the onset. You all already know how anti-black some people are, but recently it looks like they poured fuel into the flames or the fire, and it is really burning. Every side you go, you hear people talking ill or saying some certain things about black people due to this election that it's coming. And sincerely speaking, I really cannot wait for this election to come and go on, because a lot of people feel like it is an opportunity for them to rage bait, or an opportunity for them to get back at black people for no just reason, right? I mean, it's been stories flying around, black people collecting money, black people doing this and all that, black people are not supporting Palestinians anymore, and the rest of it. And Palestinians and white people are kind of coming together, looking for one thing to tell black people and all that. Number one, it looks like some people do not even know their history, because if you know your history, you are not going to run to your enemy for help, because it looks like some of you are not using your number six. How do you run to somebody that is also one of the causes of your problem, telling the person to help you out because you feel like probably at some point we are no longer in alignment with some certain things, and you all did not sit down to understand that this is not betrayal, it is taking care of home first before any other person. And at the same time, if things works well, if things goes well, the black people's decision will eventually help you all, but you all think that we are just being silly. Let's get it.
I want to have a conversation with you guys about the failure of a lot of white leftists, because I've had this conversation many times. If you've been following me, you will remember the various times where I've had this conversation, and we keep returning back to the same points. I want to go over those points and also talk about why I'm no longer disappointed by people like Madeline Pendleton. Now, let's start this conversation out by saying this, and I really do think this is lost in the vast majority of these conversations. A lot of times when a white creator is called out by black creators for doing anti-blackness, the desire that people have to do that is actually not, on average, to cancel somebody, right? A lot of people jump there because, that is the conclusion that a lot of people in the audience reach. But more often than not, when people make content calling out these specific creators for being anti-black, it's almost always with the premise that these are people who have publicly stated that they have certain political ideas that might suggest that they might not want to be engaging in anti-blackness. So I'm going to call these people out for said anti-blackness with the hope that they will change their ways. But what I've seen happen time and time and time again when it comes to these white leftists is that they refuse to hear that, and they start arguing in the same exact way that you will hear a lot of white racists argue. Suddenly we're having conversations about how black people are offended by everything, about how black people are constantly pulling the race card. There's this flattening of conversations like, oh, so I can't criticize Kamala Harris without being a racist. And it's kind of frustrating, right? It's a little frustrating because a lot of times these conversations start with the premise that you were open to changing your way of talking about this. And often they start with the premise that maybe you don't know that you're talking about it like this. And this is the point I really want to make. Far too many white people who are in leftist conversations on the internet are really under the impression that because they say they're leftist out loud, they could never be racist. It is so implausible for them to be racist. And like right-leaning white people, or even centrist white people, I'm just going to be honest, white people, period, right? It's like you... White people are going to be, I'm just going to say it like this. This is what I'm trying to express. White people are going to be racist. White people, because they live in a society that centers white supremacy, are going to be imbued with racism. And a lot of times, you're going to be racist without knowing you're being racist. You're going to think and do racist shit because racism would never be able to thrive if it couldn't be perpetuated by people who think they're not racist, right? And I think maybe because of the way that I personally approach politics, I am always open to the idea that I'm impacted by a societal bias that has been normalized, right? I always entertain the fact that I could be, for example, ableist or anti-Semitic or other, I always entertain that premise. But there's a lot of white people in these conversations about leftist ideas who never seem to entertain the premise that they could be anti-black, right? They never entertain that premise. It's always, I'm not racist, insert, here's a tokenized person for me, to which to argue that I'm not racist. They make quite literally the same argument. And it really is a symptom of whiteness. And I know that a lot of white people don't want to hear that. And I think that when they hear that, they always think that it's you're white, and it's just like something that you can't work through. But what gets me is that a lot of times when people point that shit out, they're trying to help you deconstruct your white supremacy. And what ends up happening is that instead of them doing that, because in all reality, they're not in these conversations for their politics. That's another conversation. It ends up becoming this thing where instead of trying to think of ways that you could maybe be more thoughtful and not engage in anti-blackness, where we now need to start talking about why it's bad for us to think about or speak about or focus around identity at all in these conversations. And it's easy for me to understand how a lot of white people get there, because a lot of white people don't consciously think about whiteness, right? Like you have people right now on the right who are more overtly being like, we need to ensure a future for our white children, right? But then you've also got people who are perpetuating white supremacist concepts and ideas and approaches without realizing it, because, and this is the key, they haven't examined white supremacy in any real way, in any meaningful way. And because I've had these conversations with so many different white leftists, it really has impacted the way I personally view white leftists. I a couple of years ago, I switched into really feeling like I'm not going to believe what you say about your politics. I'm going to believe what I see of your politics, right? It is so easy to say, I'm a leftist and you're a genocide supporter if you vote for Kamala Harris. It really is. It is so easy to say that. It is a little bit more complex to have a cohesive and real understanding of how people are currently fighting against their own genocides, right? And aware of politics enough to understand that they're going to be moving a certain way politically in order to fight against that genocide. And like trust that they actually do believe that. Because that's another aspect of this too. An aspect of the white supremacist ideas within a lot of these white leftists is that they quite genuinely believe there is no scenario where a black person could possibly understand their oppression a little bit more than they do. Like a lot of these people, the way they talk to black people, you can tell that they start from the position that black people are undereducated, don't know enough about politics, don't know about leftist ideas and principles to possibly be able to know how to advocate for themselves. That's why so many of these conversations are, white leftists speaking condescendingly to black people, white leftists tokenizing other black people who agree with them and saying, see, look, as though it's not heinously racist to believe in a binary where only, black people believe this or that, right? To narrow down the entire thought of a group of very diverse people who happen to share the same racial categorization as, given to them by white supremacists, right? To narrow it all down, to flatten it to one or two things, this or that, right? It's incredibly racist. It's incredibly anti-black. But these white leftists, because they've not really examined white supremacy in any like meaningful way, they haven't really gotten there. And really what I want to try to communicate as a person who's talked about this quite a bit with people is that they're not going to. They're not going to. And I'm not saying that because I don't think it's possible, but I think that a lot of the white leftists who have created this pattern for themselves of centering themselves, of leading conversations all the time and being celebrated for the way that they've led certain conversations. I think a lot of those people, they're never really gonna back away from it and see it. Because in all reality, they are making content on the internet, and because that content, thrives or doesn't, and they're consciously thinking about their audience, and because their audience is going to be mostly white people who agree with them and support what they're saying, they're not really incentivized to really give a fuck in like a real way. And that's kind of where this shit gets murky for me, right? Because I think that it's great that people have platforms on the internet where they talk about these things. Obviously, as somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, I'm so in support of that. But I also think that that's just part of what we're doing. And it's been interesting to sort of see people view politics as such a zero-sum game, because that's never been my approach to politics, right? This vote that we're doing for the president, this inherently corrupt position, that's not the end all be all. It never has been. And the attitudes that I see expressed by Madeleine and a lot of people like Madeleine really do tell me that they're not ever going to be invested in the work, because they're in a position where they could do something, but they're. All right, so I probably should stop talking about this, but I'm going to focus on this comment because for the very few people who are actually watching these videos to actually genuinely listen to what's being said so that they, can genuinely make some changes, I think this is worth pointing out. So I have several videos where I articulated the anti-black things that she said, right? Now I have privated some of those videos, so I can understand why some people might not get all of it, because I made a lot of videos yesterday. So, maybe some people haven't seen all the videos, but the videos that are up, the videos that I've kept up, have very specifically described the anti-blackness, and have specifically described the things that I'm taking issue with, which I'm going to repeat in this video are not in the first video that she made. So many of you are doing this thing, and I think this is worth pointing out, where you're so focused on what she said in her first video that you're ignoring literally everything else, right? So I'll go over it quickly. What have I described as anti-blackness on her side? I firstly spoke pretty extensively because for me, one of the most potent areas of her anti-blackness is her general attitude towards the way that Black people politically organize and have conversations about that, right? There's this general attitude that she's had in a lot of the comments that I've seen, because the thing people are missing is what people are responding to are all of the comments that she's left on Black creators' videos. What people are responding to is her general attitude towards Elizabeth, right? Somebody who does disclose, who she's funded by and things, right? The way that she dismissively, said basically, well, you support genocide, and is now kind of ignoring that a lot of Black women have developed political thought and have actually arrived to the position of voting for Kamala Harris for a reason, right? It is not just what is being projected that people are hiding behind identity or whatever, right? Like, there are reasons why people would want to vote for Kamala Harris other than her being a Black woman, right? And so for me, the anti-Blackness, it's a lot of that. It's in how she's been responding to Black creators. It's in her, specific, because here's the thing I think people are missing. I am getting video after video after video of Black person responding to Madeleine's comments on their videos, right? Most of those people are Black women, right? It's not about the first video. It's about the way that she showed up in these people's comment sections. It's about the way that she has actually been responding to people who have pointed out that her content directed people to harass Black creators. As I've said in many different videos and many different comment sections, I don't doubt that she made those videos without making, I don't think that she intentionally set out to target Black creators, right? However, the ultimate result of what she said was she was vague enough to not specifically name out certain people. Then she named a certain person who does disclose who she's funded by, handed her audience a list of people who were funded by that PAC, right? A lot of those people then decided to go harass the Black women on that list, right? And this is all to make what, in my personal opinion, is the non-point that certain people are being paid to promote political candidates, right? And I say that's a non-point because, of course, right? I say that's a non-point because that's something that happens on every fucking side, and people who create content online that promotes, like, content creators should be getting paid for this, right? Do I agree that they should be disclosing? Sure, abso-fucking-lutely, right? But content creators who create content for political organizations should be getting paid for that, right? To me, there were points that she's been making that I think are very valid. I agree with a lot of what she says about Kamala Harris, right? Like, I'm going to repeat that I'm not pro Kamala Harris, right? But the point I've been making is that there are reasons why people would support Kamala Harris other than the things that you're saying, right? And the way that people, especially white people, are choosing to react to Black women who are speaking about that right now, it stands out, especially in the context of this election, because we're talking about a Black woman. Even though I don't, even personally, I don't know very many people who are voting for Kamala Harris because she's a Black woman, right? But there are so many people who are attacking her because she is a Black woman, right? There's an attitude that people are having with Kamala Harris that is very anti-Black, right? And it stands out that a lot of the people who have that attitude towards Kamala Harris have objectively not had that attitude for other, more powerful white people, right? And that's why it feels a certain way to a lot of the Black creators who are seeing this, because it's not that a lot of us also don't like Kamala Harris, right? But what people are missing is that there's a lot of anti-Blackness in the way people are talking about Kamala Harris. There's a lot of anti-Blackness in the way that people are talking about Black women who have assessed correctly the situation in this country and are going to vote a certain way for that reason. There's a lot of anti-Blackness present in these conversations. And even if we're specifically talking about Kamala Harris, I need for people to understand that anti-Blackness in other contexts is also bad. The attitude that so many of you guys have around Kamala Harris being unintelligent, having no accomplishments that are worthy of her potentially being elected president, right? In the context of someone who is completely, Jill Stein and Donald Trump are both not. You can sit down. You're not going to be on camera. Jill Stein and Donald Trump are both not nearly as qualified to be president, but there's a lack of criticism of what they've engaged in, right? And it's weird because it seems it seems pointed, is what I'm trying to say. A lot of us have gone on here and articulated completely. I mean, every one of the videos I've made about this has been like 10 minutes long. I actually edited a video that was like a 10-minute video down to specifically, focus on the anti-Blackness, right? I edited it. I made a shorter video talking about it, going over it, right? And people still, I guess, want to act like it wasn't explained. This process that people are constantly in of telling Black women that they can't explain their positions, that they don't explain their positions, that they, aren't smart enough to explain their positions, in the process of us already doing that, after we've already done it, and the reality is you don't give a fuck enough to like look at our page to actually see that we have, the fact that that is such a thing, that's part of the anti-blackness that we're talking about. I've explained the anti-blackness. I've done it time and time again. You come into this conversation and said, you just can't articulate what she said was anti-black on a video where I'm articulating why what she said is anti-black, right? I'm sorry, like, this is why I am personally, I don't trust people who just say that they're leftists. I need to actually see you do that shit. Because it's crazy to me how many of you dip into anti-blackness and then don't understand that the reason people are reacting to you a certain way is, in theory, on paper, your position should be one that is not anti-black. So when you engage in anti-blackness, when you do this thing where you insinuate that black women aren't smart enough to articulate their ideas, that black women don't work hard enough, that don't just happen to not have what white women have, and that's why no one's listening. When you do that shit, right? When you insult the intelligence of black women, you are just being loudly anti-black. There are so many well-spoken, intelligent, qualified black women who know what the fuck they're talking about on here that are dismissed by people like you as idiots who don't know what they're talking about. That is anti-blackness. And the fact that you don't know that is evidence of how little you have been engaged in the conversation about anti-blackness, which is in and of itself.
Look, I'm a white socialist. That means I'm smarter than you and I'm better than you. I know I like to brag about moral superiority, but I'm not going to do anything to protect the people, particularly marginalized communities, even though I like to talk for them, even though they never asked me to. I talk for them because I am them, because I identify with them, because even though I've never been through anything that having to deal with injustice or having to fight for civil rights, I am that. Because I want to be oppressed so bad. My parents' money is going to protect me during this election. It doesn't matter who's elected. If Trump's reelected, it's fine. I'm going to be able to survive off of my parents' trust fund. Trust and believe that. And for all you black people calling me out on my racist bullshit, fuck you. I hope Trump gets reelected. When Trump's reelected and he puts black and brown people in harm's way, I'm going to move out the way. I'm not going to do a fuck thing to protect you, but I will go on social media and I will tweet about it and I will do videos about it and I will capitalize off of it due to the creator fund and I will get paid for it, for my views. And people are going to praise me as an ally when all I am is just a liar. I lie.
In a society that frequently prioritizes white voices, the dismissal of black leftist or black socialist perspectives is very harmful. It's crucial to recognize that urging someone to listen to black voices cannot be limited to the narratives of black liberals. This perspective neglects the broader picture of black socialist thought that plays a vital role in addressing systemic inequalities. The marginalization of black socialists by their black liberal counterparts not only ignores important historical contributions, but also isolate those that are wanting a more radical change. This erasure of black socialists is not only just a political oversight, but it's also anti-blackness. Acting like black political thought exists as a monolith undermines the complexity of black identity. Listen to black voices should include black socialists as well. Many of you will quote Malcolm X, Angela Davis, but your politics are not the same as theirs, and it's like y'all don't even realize that. There are black socialists on here whose voices get suppressed so much. And it isn't until like a white socialist will say something, the exact same thing that black socialists have been saying, that it gets traction like this. And the dogpiling starts, and we see how y'all really feel about radical thought. But the targeting will never happen to a leftist that happens to be a POC, because that will just shatter the foundation of liberal identity politics if they did that. I just feel like it's so lazy to twist the narratives of some of these leftists to accuse them of being anti-black when black leftists know that these people aren't. Now, am I saying that white leftists don't have issues? No, they do. They do tend to be quite reductionist in a lot of their analysis. But what's happening right now is the weaponization of identity politics. That's all.
So this is all I got from this video, and the truth is that a lot of them are actually weaponizing the fact that they can actually make something of black trauma, because majority of them do not even care, not even for a minute or a second. They just want to only talk about it on social media and then or tweet it and then turn off their camera. They are absolutely cursing or acting the hell out of them and all that. What I have noticed from the period of since Joe Biden actually said that I can continue this race, I am just going to hand over to this person and let her continue. The kind of anti-blackness that I have I have seen on the social media, it's something that I do not wish people experience or other people of color experience. They know what they are dishing up to black people. Absolutely. Because I don't want to make excuses for anybody trying to say that some of them are ignorant. They are not ignorant. They are old. When I say old enough to know what is good from what is bad, right? So some of them are looking for a way to make something out of it, which most majority of them are doing already. Most of them have really watched black people struggle, not just only struggle, come out on the internet, talk about their oppression, talk about how they are being treated and how the system is working against them, like all of that, systemic racism and the rest of it. They see all that. They know all that all this are happening, but they will never shed light to it, right? Why? Because they feel they are not the ones experiencing it. They feel like it is not their problem. I mean, they are not in a good position to talk about it. Or majority of them are feeling like if I speak about it and they become free, or they gain their freedom, so who am I supposed to oppress? I want you to always bear this in mind, that majority of them are not even, they decided not to speak because they feel like, man, if they get better than, if they get better than us, so how are we supposed to survive? Because majority of them have this mindset. I have also brought videos of them saying it, like, what if Kamala Harris becomes president? What are we going to do? What will our men be doing and all that? Some are like, black men are going to take over everywhere and they will be richer than us. So you can imagine that mentality that they are already projecting when the election is not even yet done, right? So how do you expect them to come out come out and truthfully speak on your behalf? They probably might speak just for speaking's sake and then run inside and go back to their to their normal thing and all that. But yeah, you all already have seen what it's been like. A lot of them accusing black content creators, telling them that they took money, denigrating them, cursing them out. Some even went to the extent of teaming up, with other people, looking for a way to bring them down. And I am asking this, what do you people get? Like I said in my other video, I really wish that black content creators are getting money the way they are thinking or the way they feel like, they are giving them money. And another one is that I know these people, if you, I am sure you all already know because I learned from you, right? The truth is that if they have evidence, trust me, the first thing they will flash is that evidence, but they do not have any evidence. So for that reason, they feel, it's just all jokes and fun. Why? Majority of them really want to be oppressed so bad. So that's why some of them act like that. But man, all this it's really insane that, in 2024, some people are kind of looking for a way to hold people down, probably because they are not supporting someone that they want and all that. And I haven't even seen also black people telling people it is a force, and nobody should even force anybody to support anybody. This is my opinion. nobody should force anybody, or like, I don't know, but I can tell you this is, I mean, like, I think this person is a good candidate, and I'm just going to shed light on that. But I am not going to push it, because as an adult, we are old enough to know what we want. And I am not pushing, I am not struggling with it, because I don't want to struggle with it. Right. So if you, I don't know, but whoever you people choose for yourselves, that is just it. Because some things, I mean, like, I cannot save anybody. You are the one that will save yourself. I don't know if that makes sense, you know? So, so far, it has not been a great experience. Black people, I mean, like, they've been support, or they supported Palestinians all through the period from last year till like sometime, probably last month or last 2 months. They told them, man, it is time for us to, like, take care of our home and arrange our home, make our home a home. And that was where the problem started, because they feel like, as a Black person, you are not supposed to have choice. I mean, we are supposed to dictate for you. And some of them are saying that you all are supporting genocide. Like, genocide has not been happening in Black community. I mean, can you people really hear yourselves out? Most of the things you all are, with Black people already experience all that and still experiencing it. But you all do not want to see their own struggles. The only struggles that you want to see is just your own struggle. How do you want me not to see my own stress or my own struggle first before seeing yours? I mean, it is really ridiculous. But then you all are doing that and think it's all fun and something people should do. I mean, nobody should do that. And then upon that, they actually think that Black people do not know anything, or they are dumb, right? Politically, like, are you being serious? But the truth is that Black people already have mastered the art of politics, and I don't know how they mastered that, but man, they are really great when it comes to that. Some people also got no knowledge of politics, but they always want to act like they're not allowed, or they come out to tell you that if you know how politics work, you definitely will understand that some people are making smart moves, right? And now, for those that are saying we are going to vote third party, there is I don't even want to call him, but some people are just like, yeah, that is what some people are. I mean, someone is out there also, a Black man, convincing people to vote third party. Hello, are you okay? Like, in what history have you ever seen a third party? Like, it's as good as you did not even come out to vote. If your plan is to come out to vote third party, just stay back in your house, because it's of no use, you know. And I am also going to say this. Hmm. Just escaped my mind, but it's okay. It's okay. Just, I mean, do you? Because like the way the whole thing is going is just like everybody pointing accusing finger on Black people. Black people are this, Black people are that, Black people are taking money, and the rest of it. If you have proof, man, show us receipt, because there is nothing as beautiful as receipt. I mean, see you all in my next video. Bye for now.